Let's bring in Hamid Khalafallah, who is a researcher and a policy analyst at the Khartoum office of the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. He speaks to us live from the Sudanese capital. Good to have you on the show. All right, so this framework agreement removes any formal role for the military in the country's politics. But with this delay, I mean, you have to ask whether or not the people are confident as to if the military are genuine about handing over their power.
Thank you for having me. Definitely, no one is confident that the military is willing to hand over power. And I think this is one of the main reasons why a lot of actors, including the resistance committees, the popular grassroots resistance movement, is not supporting the framework agreement, specifically for the lack of trust in the military. And as so many people predicted, today, the 1st of April, was supposed to be the day where they signed the final political agreement, and it got postponed until the 6th of April. So, yeah, there is no reason to believe that the military is willing to hand over power, particularly that the main bottleneck that is causing the delay in signing the agreement now is security sector reform. And if no agreement was reached around security sector reform, which is the most crucial issue and the issue that is most contentious and causing fractions between different actors, then they have not agreed on anything, basically.
Since you mentioned security reform, I mean, I think what's interesting, for me at least, is throughout this deal, I think it's fair to say it's actually brought up a particular rivalry between generals, hasn't it?
It has, specifically in the past few weeks, particularly, in response to the security sector reform kind of discussion. So the security sector reform is a very complicated issue where there are complications regarding civilian-military relations, particularly around civilian oversight over the military, and government or official government control over the military's economy. Which is now all being run outside the formal, routes of Ministry of Finance. So that is one side of the complication. But the other side of the complication is the process of integrating paramilitaries like the Rapid Support Forces of General Hamdan W. Himeti, and the official army headed by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. And this is now the main issue that is causing the delay. Because what they say is that the main differences are around the period that this integration period would take. The civilians are suggesting 2 years in their documents. The Sudan Armed Forces, the official military, is suggesting 5 years. And then the Rapid Support Forces are suggesting 10 years. And these are very different time frames for this process.
Hamid, let's take a look a couple of steps ahead. I understand that if this framework agreement passes, it's just going to be a starting point. I mean, any new government in Sudan will face an extremely complex set of challenges. I mean, you have managing relations with the military, not to mention building legitimacy.
Absolutely. And building legitimacy is very difficult at times of, revolution and post-revolution and post-conflict contexts where you can't hold elections, right? So that is a very difficult, question to address. And the civilians have not been very successful in addressing that question so far, particularly those engaged in the political process. Because, like I said earlier, the grassroots movement of the resistance committees is still, excluded and not taking part in the current political process, and would highly likely, protest against whatever upcoming government that comes to place. Okay. So civilians really need to work hard on that. But I think, there's a huge and important role for the international community to play, particularly around, holding the military to account, because there would be this question about bringing all civilian actors together and trying to make sure that they work together. But what do you do with the military who are holding the guns? And this is where the international community needs to play an important role.
Hamid Khalafallah, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World.